So welcome everybody back to my channel. This is another diecast review. Usually when I don't build model, as you see here in this moment I'm taking a pause from my buildings. I will restart soon doing my own models. I always prefer to build up my stuff and then the stuff that I've been committed. So, now I have a little time to do this, and so for me it's the best. Well, the model I want to show you today is still another one from that diecast review collection uh, provided by Centauria. It's about the Formula One, the famous Formula One of the past. And well, this was not honestly one of the most famous ones, so I was a little bit surprised to see them producing this type of model. This was the Arrows A1, driven by Riccardo Patrese. Patrese was a kind of racing legends, we have in Italy, and it was a very, very skilled pilot, still active, I think, until a few years ago. He made the GP Master series, when they invite all the glories for Formula One. But he's a quite skilled pilot. It seems that it was him, the one that Enzo Ferrari talked about when he wanted to engage him for the driving in the Ferrari about, I think it was in the 80s, something like that. And he had an answer, something like, or it was Eddie Cheever that he had to talk with the lawyer before talking to him. Probably it was Eddie Cheever. And Patrese anyway was a quite skilled guy, and he had a very, very long career in Formula One, and I had the opportunity to have a brief talk with the friends on the Just Motorsport, because they engaged him to have a race with the Honda that I made in 124 scale, so my NSX GT3, still not the Evo car, but it was the Castrol one. If you check between my videos, you will see the build up of the Castrol car. It was the NSX GT3 from 2018, and one of these cars have been driven by Riccardo Patrese itself, the same guy, a little older, of course, in 2018 in Spa-Francorchamps. And it was together with Baguette and with another guy that I don't remember the name, some young guys, and it was the guest star, with that racing together with Just Motorsport. And it was interesting to know and to listen about the details about his experience. This was a guy that was driving car. This was a car from, I think, 1979, 1979. So between 1979 to 2018, it's quite long career. You are still there with the guys, trying to do your best, and not showing up. It was really, really racing. The model itself is quite interesting, and of course there is always issues with this company, with this Centauria stuff, probably because of the shop where they arrive. As you can see, my box is completely cracked here, and because it was a little late in searching this in the shops, you have to be very, very tempestive in searching them, and if you miss them, it's a little bit tricky, to have them. And in the most successful case, you can just pay them more than what they are scheduled for. This is a model cost 25 euros in Italy, and it's very easy that they rise, the prices going up, very easy to 30 euro, 35, 40, 50s. There is some models like the Ferrari, some Ferrari that have not been made again in the other series. This Centauri is making two series about the Grandi Formula 1, that in Italian means both the famous Formula 1 but also the big Formula 1, because this is not the conventional 143 scale, this is 124 scale. So this is probably a game that they made about the name, talking about Grandi Formula 1. And then there is another one that is the Grandi Ferrari Formula 1. So it is just dedicated to the Ferrari. On that series, for example, there is already one masterpiece. That was the Michele Alboreto Ferrari 156/85. It was the turbo Ferrari from Michele Alboreto. Indeed, today, the day I'm making the video, today is the 28th, of April. It was the anniversary, of course, of the sad dismiss and the sad death of Michele Arboreto. He died in Lausitzring in Germany in 2001, I think it was, with the Audi R8, and it was an ugly, horrific crash, that he had during a test for the tires. Basically to Michele it happened that in high speed, it was neither the real Lausitzring, where today the IndyCar Racing League race, and also the NASCAR race there. It was probably one of the private part of the Lausitzring, and they were just lowered back in time to test some speedy parts on the real high-speed part of the Lausitzring ring, and Michele had a failure on the rear tire, and the car flip up, and he had breaking the roll bar in the grass, and then he died, you know. So today is the anniversary of this giant loss. Michele was an amazing pilot because he was, you know, from Milano. It's I love to see him. I remember I had the poster in my room, you know, of this guy with the blue and yellow helmet driving this red Ferrari, and always so polite. It was really a gentleman, you know. And indeed, Patrese, back in the time, didn't give me. Of course, he's a person that I never met in real life. You know, what I know from other sources is that the world is little, you know, guys. So this kind of sickness and addiction that we have, because we are basically all addicted about this stuff, is that also Riccardo Patrese is an avid modeler, you know. I think mostly about trains and stuff like that, you know. But anyway, there is a nice picture of Patrese at today, so the old Patrese, the nowadays Patrese, in front of his personal showcase of trains, you know, trains in scale, HO and N and so on. So he have a collection of trains. So there's probably also him inside is a modeler, you know, is a collector. I don't know if he's a modeler, you know. I don't know the fellow, so I cannot tell you so much. I never have commissioned by him, you know. I have commissioned by other famous people, but not Patrese, no. I know there's some pilots, so I think also Emanuele Pirro, if I'm not wrong, you know, I was a quite famous pilot, mostly of endurance. It was the teammate of, I think even with Michele Arboreto and Tom Christensen with the Audi, you know, with the winning Audi of the early 2000s, you know. And also Emanuele Pirro is a very, very skilled modeler, I think, about planes, you know. I've seen a F-104 made by him. Coming back to the model, you know, as I say, that this model have the problem that my blister, this is neither a showcase, it is just a plastic blister that they have in the shops, is completely cracked. Probably they had to smash, you know, this stuff is pressed with books over and so on, so probably this have been smashed, and all the plastic outside completely cracked, but the inner side, if you see closely, made this dirty job, you see. So the second plastic under there completely saved the wing of the car. Of course, all the box is completely folded, you know, and it seems that all the model is completely, look, the wing and so on is completely destroyed. Instead, I think it's not, because if you just move in the way that the car should be straight, you know, don't consider as usual that this kind of plastics they had in the blister is always forcing the wheel from the side. So every time you have the side of the wheels that is foldering in some way, so it looks like the wing, like the wheels is a little bend, you know. But I think it's not the case. This model anyway is extremely nice, and not for the car itself, you know. The Arrows A1 and the strange history, you know. Arrows was a kind of, they explain in the book inside here about the story of the vehicle, you know. It was a kind of shadow. It was a part of the Lotus team that escaped from Colin Chapman and made by their own before the Shadow. And then the Arrows, you know, with the big entrepreneur from Italy, that was the A of the word Arrows. Arrows was an acronym of the names involved in this, you know. And also they were so lucky because also Riccardo Patrese probably, I don't know if at the time he also had to bring money, probably yes, inside the company to race with this car, you know. But they had a very big scam. I think it was about the Shadow DN9 that was basically copied by them, because the engineer making this car was exactly the same one making the Arrows. So, so the original DN9, if you look at the picture, is not exactly like this. This was the following version, you know. So they copied the Shadow and they made the first Arrows, that was the very first one, that was named FA1. It was slightly different in the front end, and some stuff was a little bit different. It was not at all a wing car, so it was not at all with the side effect that became famous in the late 70s, you know, and everybody had to use them before Lotus, then Renault, and everybody else, you know. So they had to convert the car that was designed not to be like a wing car but like a conventional car, and they had to modify it, making it became different, you know. And all the nice part of this model I cannot show you, because as I say, they want always to save the blister even if this one is destroyed. But usually the nice of the wings car is that if you turn them, under that there is a sort of, if you think about all the models that you can see around of the Ferrari 312 T4, if you turn it upside down, you know, you can see that under the car there is a completely strange way of I don't know how to explain in English, but the direction of the air, it was designed in the way to keep the car glued to the asphalt, so it was a challenge to drive them, and extremely dangerous, as we all know. And Patrese was extremely skilled also in this one, I've been blamed in his career, I think he have been blamed for several years to have been the cause of the deadly fatal crash that took away Ronnie Peterson in Monza 78, But I don't really think so, because also I read that they made a lot of investigations and so on, so it was not at all about Patrese, It was probably because a lot of other pilots were jealous of what he could do and for the skill that he had, that he was very young. It was very, very easy, to destroy at the time a pilot, just blaming him and say, hey, you are the cause of the starting of the crash that took away, that killed Ronnie Peterson. And Ronnie Peterson didn't neither die in that crash. He died after for a problem in a hospital, a problem in a hospital that usually never happens, and he was unlucky. This stuff is the history of motorsport. You can find books and millions of articles about this stuff, But anyway, Patrese was blamed about this, was considered the starting spark of that horrific crash in Monza, The model is, I think, really well done. It's another time surprisingly nice, mostly because of the decal artwork that they did, This car was extremely strange. Also, the rear suspension was something. I think it was also this coming from a project made by Mauro Forghiere about the suspension of this Formula 1. They look very similar to Ferrari in the suspensions, And the body itself, made in die-cast, don't have, for example, the rear NACA ducts open, so they are completely closed, but it's okay. What it is extremely nice in this model, in my opinion, is mostly the tampo work they made with decals all over the body of the car, As usual, the inner details is so poor, you see, in this model. Also, the seat belts, and before the end of the seat, there is no differences in color, so it's really, really poor compared to the exterior part, with very, very few little effort. This could be an incredibly nicer model, but always remember that we are talking of something that costs like a couple of beers. So for 25 euros, I think we cannot complain. Of course, I never do it, never take my criticism like a complaint. It is just observations about models that I anyway buy. Nobody give them to me, so I go personally and buy them one by one. And I think I am also quite lucky, because I have a guy right near to me here that can provide all these models without having the pain, to order them online, to wait them online. Sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't go well. There is people that order from Centauria some of the first series arriving in the newspaper shop, stuff that you paid 10 euros, something like that, and they are still waiting for them. There is no way to have them, so it's complicated. If you lose the model, it's really complicated. I'm a little bit worried now, because soon I have to be back to my homeland in Sweden, and probably I will miss some of the last issues. This was the number 56, and this series is now scheduled to end at the number 60, it seems. But it is still an unconfirmed rumors about this, that the series will go on not until just the number 60, but until the number 80. So it should be 20 more models made in the same way, And there is also rumors about what type of model. There is some people that placed online some list, and then if you read carefully, this was basically a wish list of people that wanted some type of models. What I've seen until today is that in that list there is too much modern stuff and too much doubles from the other series, from the famous Ferrari Formula 1. So if they want to do something interesting, maybe it could be nice to make the arrows, instead of this A1 that was the first one, as I say, a derivation and a bad copy, and this was a bad correction of the FA1. It was much more interesting to see the infamous, because she didn't win a shit, Arrows A2, that was I think it was the car driven by Jochen Mass, It was a completely different car, looking like the Lotus from 1981. So it was a very, very, in my opinion, one of the nicest Formula 1 ever of the 80s, It should be interesting, even more in this painting made in gold, Warsteiner beer sponsor, should be absolutely interesting, you know. So for now, I just started with what I found available right now. As I said, the model is pretty decent, you know. The boxing is absolutely not decent, but I think that if you want a real proper box, it's better that you find them in a short time. I think it will be available like ordinary Ebro or Ixo model with the proper box, with the proper showcase, you know, and probably the price will be much higher than this. I don't think that they will sell it worldwide for just 25 euros. Much more easy, the price will be around 50 euros or $50, something like that, you know. And so basically the model is once again a very interesting car, you know. The subject itself is not so interesting, you know, because the car was not anyway such a winning car, was not so important for motorsport, but it is a nice model, you know. And as I said, because I am addicted, every time that I find this stuff available, for me is a must to buy it, is a must to make a little comment, you know, about this, you know. And of course also this one is one of the nicest ever, mostly for this stunning work of tampograph and decal artwork over the model, you know. Bad points, it should be, as I said, just about the interiors. I don't consider the poor quality of the blister, because this was a failure that happened to my model, not to the models that you can usually find around, you know, even if they say that it's quite common that you find damage on the boxes, you know. And that's why probably it became even more worse in the other collection about Ferrari, where the showcase is solid, is very plastic, much more plastic than this one. This is just a covering, a blister. It's meant to be taken away, open and destroyed and trashed, so it's not such big issues, you know. But as I seen in the house of some friends, when they have similar models like this and you completely expose them, if you don't place them inside the proper showcase, they will be full of dust in a while. So it's a waste of money. Of course, we are talking of toys, so there is not this big expectation about this stuff, but I really don't like my models to be full of ugly dust that you can have in ordinary house, you know. The model is this. I deeply suggest you to grab it if you like the Formula 1 of the 70s and of the 80s, and there is much more pros in this model than in the other. For example, the video I made it before, it was about the one of the latest Ferrari from the other collection, you know. It was the Formula 1 from I think it was Fernando Alonso from 2012, and as you remember, there was an ugly bad issue in the assembly of the rear wing that was not fixable, you know. You have to open the model, you have to completely take away the part, modify, clean it, and replace it in position, probably with pins. So it's a big work that I don't want to do it at all right now, not over such kind of models. So I prefer to keep them like they are, and in the future we will see if I want to sell them back or simply take them away and keep them like a permanent showcase in my garage. You know, this is not stuff that I take it in my personal showcases, but anyway, I like that. And as usual, as I said, the book involved together with the model is always so interesting. It's written in Italian, of course. There is no double text, so I think that this series is really meant just to be an Italian stuff, you know, just for Italians, because the text have no translations at all, you know. It's not so difficult to understand if you just see the picture and the description of every picture. So, you know, the next one will be that ugly one that I can be gladly without it, both for the pilot, both for the type, both for the ears, you know. It's a 20 years old Williams, so I really don't care about this stuff, you know. And but instead, this one about the 70s, for me, it's always constantly very interesting to read and to see pictures of the time, you know. It is nice, you know. It take back memories of this glorious motorsport era. The model is absolutely worth it. Really happy to have a Riccardo Patrese model. And that's it, you know. It's an Italian pilot over a very British kit car Formula 1, and absolutely worth the buying, you know. So take it, enjoy it, and collect it. See you in the next one.